Ooh, I actually didn't think of how we would do an intro for this because we're trying something new this week, everybody. I was laying in bed in a hot and cold sweat at the same time, smelling terrible as I do, and
Also known.
that's right. Although I didn't hear what he said, but I'm guessing it's right because he pays my salary. But he's right. Welcome to Press Start. Today we're just talking about stuff, isn't that right, everybody?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Getting a nice podcast vibe to things, a more chilled, laid-back vibe instead of structured videos, so we can bring you big video and then smaller videos alongside them. Be good fun. Now that now that the greatest intro of all time is out of the way, let's talk about the greatest piece of news of the week.
Greatest piece of news.
The greatest piece of news. You guys know what it is. You know I enjoy this series quite a bit. Probably not. You probably don't know. But Dead Space 2008 is getting a remake. You guys Dead Space people?
No.
Oh.
I mean, my last exposure to it was my older brother Joe. He played the crap out of them, and he really enjoyed them. And like, this was at the time when I was just discovering video games. I was trying to like figure out what I liked and what I didn't like, and I found them beautiful. I found them high quality at the time. I would like piss my pants if I ever tried to play them. And also, like, at the time, I remember specifically the gun where you could turn it vertical or sideways, and you like chopped off body parts with that. That's always stuck with me. And like, even now I'll play a shooter, I'm like, I wish I had that gun for this.
It's a really cool gun. It's that weird engineering tool or whatever to fight off the many-limbed aliens. I was hoping for, soft reboot kind of. But it's EA, so they decided just to go with a straight up remake, which for Mass Effect I guess went pretty well. Nothing but good things to say about that. Mass Effect remastered, whatever the hell collection.
Well, they were remasters. This apparently is a from the ground up rebuilding, remake, everything. And it's made with the newest iteration of the Frostbite engine. It's from people that have seen it behind closed doors, they say it's ridiculous. It's up there with Demon Souls for the PS5. They said like this is a true next generation looking game, and it's probably their way of gauging interest in, like you said, a full reboot or getting back to the franchise. But we'll see. I mean, I think especially if it looks like it takes advantage of next gen hardware, because it is, after all, exclusive to Series X, S, PS5, and PC. So if they can push the boundary here, it's going to sell like crazy, because there just aren't many games out there right now that take advantage of current gen hardware. So either way, I think it's going to kill it in sales, and it's a very good thing for Dead Space.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for some more Dead Space, especially better looking Dead Space. And it must be said, I've never been a crazy remake guy. Even I've told the story on the channel before. Mario 3D All Stars came out. I decided just to buy the original games instead, as a purist. But Mafia Definitive Edition, the first one, not 2 and 3, that one as a ground up remake is tremendous. I adore that game, and it made it so I could actually, because I don't think I could go back and enjoy the original Mafia because of just, it's very dated. Everything about it was like a kind of set in its time, which isn't the case for all those older games like Mario and whatnot. But I mean, Dead Space was never really in that same boat. But it will be nice to have a prettier iteration of it, I guess. I'm okay with that.
Well, and especially
it looks good.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I have no idea anything about it at all, but it looked good.
It looks pretty.
Yeah, well, and
lots of
Dead
steam.
Space is a game that needs the ambiance so much. It really needs the just every little bit and element to feed into the perception that there's danger, that I mean, the technique that goes into building an atmospheric world is so incredibly complicated. I don't think people take it like really appreciate it. I have all of these art books back here, right there, specifically because I find it fascinating how these artists like create worlds based off of one picture, and those worlds themselves evoke emotion. Dead Space always had great ambience, and if they can crank up the visuals in a full-on remake, ooh, ooh, I'm excited.
Only good stuff to come. The question is, how many followers does Cammy need to get on Twitch in order to get her to play it? What's the number, Cammy? For those of you who don't know, Cammy is currently playing through Resident Evil Biohazard, Resident Evil 7, I believe. Making her way
You're
over
welcome.
to Resident Evil 8 because we were able to get her, and by we I mean Luke specifically because I did dick all.
Yeah.
He was able to get her to 100 followers. So what's the number, Ms. Huddlestone? How can we get you to play Dead Space? Because I don't think it's that terrifying compared to Resident Evil. It's much more an action game, and a really good action game at that.
I don't know. Because I have landmarks already up to the 1,000 mark, so it needs to be above 1,000.
Okay, 1001. You heard it here first, folks.
Okay, yeah.
1001.
Lock it in. Lock it in.
We're locking it in. If Cammy gets to 1,001 followers, she will be playing Dead Space Remake. Dead Space Remaster. They're probably going to call it something stupid like Dead Space The Redeadening or something incredibly dumb like that.
5, but the 5 is a V. And you're like, what's the 5 for?
Very, very remade.
Very good.
Very good. Dead Space Very Good Edition.
Yeah, exactly.
Better than the one before it edition.
The very most better edition.
We type video games.
I'm going to school for marketing. Call it the Dead Space Very Good Edition. That'll get them.
Trust me.
Well, shoot. That
yeah, no.
You go first. My thing was going to be nonsense. This works out. Go ahead. Do it. Say it, Luke. Do it. Say
I thought you were talking to Cammy because Cammy started talking.
Say it, Luke.
I was making noises.
I know what Luke is about to say too. I know it's Luke. Let's say it at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ice is overrated.
Oh. Ice is overrated?
Ice is overrated, though.
Yeah, I'm drinking a nice cold drink without any ice.
Yeah. You can have a cold drink.
I am too.
What the fuck are we doing here, world?
Dilutes your drink.
It does dilute your drink.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I don't honestly know if many people on YouTube know this. Back in the day, I worked at Chick-fil-A for like one summer. When I was like 16 or 17. It was like junior year of high school, I think. And I worked there for one summer, so like 2.5, 3 months. But in the span, I learned a lot about people. One of the things I learned about people, there are so many middle-aged women who order Diet Cokes with extra ice. It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. It's like they don't want quality soda, so they order diet, and they don't want to actually enjoy the diet soda they ordered, so they want it watered down. Like I felt bad for them. Sometimes I wouldn't put extra ice in it because I wanted to help them.
It's just the idea of Luke throwing a drink and going, "I'm so sorry. So sorry, your life is the way it is."
Your life is in shambles.
Oh man. Hey, speaking of in shambles and all of this, this doesn't work as a transition.
Thanks. No. You make your bed, lie in it. Go for it.
Speaking of in shambles, I shambled my way on over to YouTube and saw the trailer for the new Witcher anime.
Oh, that was wonderful.
So we live streamed Witchercon. I was an official co-streamer of the event. which basically just meant that they gave you some overlays and then like they what just happened?
There was
What?
a sound from somewhere.
Was there a sound?
Oh, I had pulled up Cammy's Twitch to see how many followers you currently had, and it auto played a video of you going, "I'm live as well now," and that's it. So
I streamed it. I'm playing It Takes Two with my friend, and she
I
was like, "I've gone live," and I was like, "Oh shit! No, okay, I'm live as well now."
that's it. That's what it was. Okay, that
Yes.
was really confusing. Um. Anyway, at WitcherCon, of course, it was a Netflix paid event. Like Netflix did it, and they showed off more stuff for the TV show. They showed off some Gwent stuff. It really was kind of a major waste of time for 3 hours. I appreciated being invited to do it. And next year, I hope they actually invite us to the real event that'll be held like actually held in person. Um, Cammy can show us the ropes around the EU.
Yeah.
But the event itself wasn't that exciting. One of the announcements of like two that they had was this Witcher anime, and it seems to be an interesting shift. So for one, it's produced by Lauren Schmidt Histrick, who you can follow on Twitter. She's hilarious and is actually the writer, producer, showrunner, everything for the Witcher Netflix series. She knows the books like the back of her hand. She's worked with Andrei Sapkowski in person, trying to really get the minutia figured out for the episodes and how they're pacing everything. She knows her stuff when it comes to The Witcher, and she also is producing the anime, which is what you want. So presumably, if you like the Witcher Netflix series, you're gonna like the anime too because it's the same showrunner, writers, everything is tied together, and it tells a story that most Witcher fans, even fairly diehard ones, are not that familiar with, and that is the story of young Vesemir, which I'm actually quite intrigued to see because I think especially people who are like fans of the games, they've blown past Vesemir. It's like, yeah, they have a relationship. He's kind of like a father figure to Geralt, but whatever. But Vesemir is an interesting guy, really interesting guy. So I'm interested to see how this kind of cracks out.
I just got to let the cat in. Bear with.
Oh,
Oh
should I let my cat in too?
Come on.
Should I
no!
do it?
Don't do it.
Yes.
Don't
Why?
do it.
Time.
Should you let your cat in? Get Bailey.
It can
She's,
be
you
a
know,
cat party.
Come
that's
Because
on,
it's
man.
okay.
Witcher and there's the
Come
school of
on.
the cat. It's all in theme. Come on. Meow.
I'm okay.
Jacob
In
doesn't
other
love
news with this The Witcher series, however, the director of it, I had to I have to do a little bit of a double take because I wasn't 100% sure if it's actually the full series director or not, or if it's just for the first episode. Fuck. I want to
Oh.
say I want to say his name right, and right as I did, I flubbed. It's Kwang the second or two or I Han. There's no image or description on his IMDb page, but he's directed episodes of The Boondocks and Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I think he's directing, like at least he'll be a part of the animation process. His repertoire looks very focused on combat. Is the big one, which seems pretty dang cool. It seems like a good pick. I wish it was a little more fleshed out who he was because he's the only director listed right now. But it's hopeful enough. Worked on some interesting projects. I got faith, and as the show in general looks good and releases one day before Psychonauts 2 comes out. Play Psychonauts 2, everybody. Watch this show while you're playing it.
Yeah, I want to. I actually have it on my to-do list to get through the first one. How long are they?
First one, I can't imagine the first one's that long. I want to say like 12 to 15 hours. I'll check real quick. I know the second one's going to be a lot longer. 12 hours for main story.
12 hours. Yeah.
69 for main plus extra. Yeah, I would say, but most of the time you'll go for the extras because you want the extra psi abilities. So I would encourage people to go for those extras and just because everything about the game just plays into the gameplay, much like how everything in this new Witcher show is going to play into the Witcher aspect of it. I didn't want to hijack the Witcher's spotlight by plugging Psychonauts again, but I love
You just
Psychonauts. What can I
about Psycho.
say?
You
I'm
just
It's
wanted
so
to
psyched. I have like 3 days off to just play Psychonauts.
God.
I'm psyched up.
One thing I will say, I mean, there's not a lot to say about, like, yeah, there's a Witcher anime series coming.
The Witcher anime series, it's about Vesmir. It looks good.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll give it a shot. The other piece, this wasn't in the original doc, but I want to just mention it because I know I have fans of Ubisoft and of Assassin's Creed that follow me pretty closely. So I want to throw this out there because they will not stop emailing me about it and asking me to, at the very least, mention it to people. There is a Kickstarter. So there were two versions of Orlog, which is the in-game board game you can play in
Oh
Assassin's Creed
yeah.
Valhalla. They did a limited edition collector's version, which was $200, and like it's carved from bone. I think like it's nice. And then the demand was so high, people wanted it so bad, but it sold out instantly that they asked for another chance to get it. So they did an official Orlog dice game, whatever licensed project through Pure Arts, which is the company that does the great collector's items. And they put it on Kickstarter to raise $59,704 to produce more Orlog games. Uh, they have $765,000 raised. So they are well over 10 times what they initially were trying to fund. And it's because like it apparently isn't that like it's I don't even know what to say. It looks great. It looks fun. If you enjoyed Orlog, if you want something to add to your game cabinet, you can jump on it. It seems cool. Granted, probably in like a year, you're gonna be able to find this at like Barnes and Noble and most of these game stores and bookstores, but still,
You
it's
want to
pretty
be
cool.
there on the ground floor, and at the time of this video releasing, you only have what 24 hours to get it on the ground floor. Like from the
Yeah.
moment
Probably,
hearing
yeah.
it, yeah. Because I hopefully this will go out tomorrow. If it doesn't, whoopsie.
I lost out.
I guess you
Just
guys
look up
got fucked.
Kickstarter Orlog, Orlog, and you could jump in on it if you want. I mean, I enjoy Orlog. I got on the list. They're sending me a version of this. I'm excited. I think Orlog is fun, and I love how you can have a game within a game like Gwent in The Witcher that like still is really robust and fun. And Orlog is actually far more intense than I think most people realize when they first start trying to play it in game. There's a lot here. So I just wanted to throw that out. It's like spamming my inbox. So I figured I would just mention it in case you hadn't heard and you're like, I love Orlog. I want to get something like that. Moving on. See, this is where I thought you were going to transition to earlier. What was the word you were playing off of when you were trying to transition into the anime? You're like
Shambles.
Shambles.
See, I thought you were like I was looking at the shambles of what was that?
Like shiver me timbers, shamble me timbers.
Shamble
Shamble
me
me timber.
whimpery.
I was looking through the shambles of failed game development and I came across Skull and Bones, only to realize it just hit alpha after 8 years of development.
I
This is
completely
something
forgot it existed.
I've been waiting for it. I love, for one, I love the ocean. I just love games that let you sail and, you know,
And yet you haven't
row.
played Wind Waker.
Too much water.
Yeah.
Too much water. But I love pirate stuff. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I want Naughty Dog to do an Anne Bonny game in the pirate unit. Like, I think it would be so good. I just love pirates. I love this setting. That being said, this thing has been in development hell pretty much nonstop. I tweeted out, I was actually wondering, of course, this thing's been in development for like 8 years, but it seems like a lot of the delays and the difficulties they started having started around the time Sea of Thieves was reaching its peak and then eventually released in 2018. It was rebooted and then rebooted again. So it seems as though Sea of Thieves had some, at least to me, I have no evidence for this, but it would make sense to me that that game came out and they're like, ooh, I like what they did there. We should be doing something like that. And they reworked it and flipped it around and restarted development. And so it's been in development hell. It's been produced mostly at Ubisoft Singapore, which actually is the same branch of Ubisoft that did all of the water physics for all of the Assassin's Creed games since 2017 when they introduced like sailing and you could, operate ships and stuff. So all of that tech that's been in these recent Assassin's Creed games was produced by Singapore. So that's what they specialize in, is this water-based movement and everything. And it's a little frustrating to see that it still hasn't been out after all this time. But apparently they've hit alpha, which is a huge milestone in the development process. And there was a lot of stuff that was brought up about this. So let me just be clear. They pointed out the project has cost roughly $120 million at this point. Most AAA games like The Witcher cost 86 million, I think. The Witcher 3. And that doesn't include marketing and stuff. Marketing often doubles the budget for this, for these types of games. But they've spent a lot of money working on this. And people were saying it would have been canceled long ago if it weren't for a deal with the government in Singapore, where they have to release this game due to some contract. Now, people were freaking out, like, oh, Ubisoft is making deals with governments and that's affecting this and that. It's actually very normal. I actually made a video back in the day. I remember I wasn't happy that CD Projekt Red had worked with the Polish government for a large grant specifically to develop Cyberpunk 2077. And it was under the same contingencies. It was, listen, you're employing a lot of Poles. We want to reward you by offering you these grants at very low interest rates, and it'll help you fund the production of the game. You just have to release the game, of course. And of course, Cyberpunk was never in question of releasing, so they took the money and kept developing. Wasn't a big deal. In this case, it seems like a bigger deal because the game seems like it just can't catch any traction and that it might be terrible. But we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping it's good. But we'll find out. I mean, the games at Ubisoft that seem to go smoothly, like X Defiant, Tom Clancy's X Defiant, those seemingly go well in development and they end up very lackluster. So we'll see what this one turns out as. Maybe this will be great.
Would you say that it's setting sail to a computer near you in the fiscal year of 2022 to 2023?
I would say that, yes.
Raise the anchor and set sail to a Nintendo console near you. Skull and Bones, only for Google Stadia.
Only.
Only.
It's the game.
Pirate free.
Pirate free. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I want more pirate games. We don't get very many good quality pirate games. The ones we do get are usually pretty cartoony. I've just want a grounded, interesting pirate game. I get it. It's kind of hard to do the pirate topic where like the Disney version includes, yeah, we rape and pillage. It's like, okay, well, really think about what those words mean.
Can you?
Do you really want that?
Captain, repeat what you just said, because you can't do that. It's like, no, that's what's appealing about the pirate lifestyle. We rape it. Just break down what that means, please.
Yeah. Like, just think about it for 2 seconds. I'm not sure you want to like make that the centerpiece. But anyway, I just think like, especially a company like like I said before we started filming, I just finished the Order 1886. If Ready at Dawn had gotten their next project before they got moved around and shuffled and everything, very sad, um, they could have done like a cinematic, grounded pirate game. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking for. Someone, please. Sea of Thieves is good. Sea of
Better
Thieves
than
is
good, you
fun.
selfish bastard. I love Sea of Thieves.
Well, I will say, like, I really like the Disney expansion they did with Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought that was good. I still think like the quest design and the design of even those really interesting expansions just leaves a lot to be desired. Like there were whole sections where like, you know, you're trying to raise a ship up a cavern by spinning the wheel that you usually use for dropping anchor, but you're spinning it and it's raising the boat up as like you're going through a shooting gallery, and it's just like it goes on for half an hour. You're like, what's the point of this? Like, what are we doing? I don't know. They just haven't really found the way, in my opinion, to really ping down and nail down the non-sailing gameplay, which they end up making half of the game. So the sailing's great. I love sailing in Sea of Thieves, but the other half of the game I just find to be fairly lackluster. Like the combat feels on par with Skyrim, which should tell you everything you need to know. Minus
It's
spells like
awesome.
Just with Swords. It's awesome.
I like I
No.
would say the combat is worse than Skyrim's, but it's about setting sail on the beautiful seas. And thanks to your criticisms, this highlight that's going to go up on the channel is going to be titled "Luke Despises Sea of Thieves and All Who Play
Amazing.
It."
And all who play it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh oh.
Oh, you got me.
I'm gonna slander Luke. Is it slander? If it's written, it's called something else.
Libel.
Libel. About to libel your ass. What's up?
What's up? What's
Cammy,
up?
you been waiting on a pirate game?
No.
What have you been waiting? This is a news week that's not super Cammy heavy, I can tell.
Super me heavy. Like it's fine because I'm having a lot of fun just like watching you two.
Be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
I I've said it for ages. I want a game that's set in the UK because there's barely any out there.
What about Valhalla?
What about Syndicate?
Assassin's Creed has what you're looking for. You need to open your heart and accept it into your heart.
Just me more a little bit more.
It's usually Ubisoft that does it for some reasons because they did it in Watch Dogs Legion too.
What of the Order 1886?
Played it.
What of the Order 1887?
Like what time period are you talking about?
No, like I've brought up the idea, like you've brought up the Naughty Dog pirate game before. I've brought up having a like apocalypse game in the UK because we don't have guns before. I think when I say I want a game in the UK, that's really what I want. If I'm honest with myself, I want an
Yeah.
apocalypse game that's in the UK, so there's barely any guns, and it's about being smart and you know
That is an
more.
interesting thing. Like, what would that look like? Because for one, I think there's interesting stuff you could do because, of course, you guys have islands. You are an island. So the idea of it being very isolated could be interesting. And you know, there could be some other interesting settings that you could tie into it. I don't know. I think
Don't get
that
me
could
wrong, it'd
be,
be really difficult, but if you pulled it off, it could be really fun.
yeah. Because it would basically end up being a melee post-apocalyptic game.
Because as well, the
Which,
UK is pretty small, so if you set it in a big enough time period, you can travel the whole UK. In which case, you've got land, countryside, city, coast,
yeah.
kind of have everything.
Yeah. I think that one difficulty with it, and this is something we saw with Valhalla, um, is that the English countryside for a video game setting is pretty samey. So it can be just, I don't know, when you do the sort of Horizon Zero Dawn, for instance, thing where they
Yeah.
set it in like a hyper exaggerated version of the Four Corners in the US, where you have desert, you have mountains, you have like sort of tropical settings, and then you have just regular mountainside. I think that works well because you get all the extremes in one map, which is what players kind of expect. Valhalla had, like, of course, coasts, but they weren't really like coasts. They didn't really look like coasts. It was the map reached the end and then there's water, basically. And then they had some snowy regions, and that's about it. So it'd be tough to pull off, but I think if they did, like you said, it's tough to do, but if you pulled it off, it could be good.
Could be good. So basically, that's what I'm wanting. So if next week Naughty Dog could announce that, please, thank you.
Do it, Naughty
Um,
Dog. We know you have it in you. Round of
Yeah.
applause for Naughty Dog. Woo!
I'm clapping my hands while the cat fur is like,
Woo!
yeah.
It is funny, even now on my Twitter timeline, like, because 2 years ago or something, I hit follow this topic on The Last of Us Part 2. I still get random tweets in my feed from like somebody who's never tweeted before. No reason for them to show me the tweet except that it's about The Last of Us 2. And it's just a random tweet that says, The Last of Us Part 2 is a masterpiece. And that's all the tweet is. And I get it probably once or twice a week of just random recommended tweets. They're like, this seems like something you would appreciate. Like, yeah,
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Do you like what they're saying? About the
I-
thing that you like that one time? Do you like it?
yes. Do you like it? Let me tell you more of the things that
Oh,
you like.
I have so much
Agree.
more to show you. Yes. I have that problem constantly. I felt a bunch of garbage. The amount of
A bunch
porn
of
on my
garbage.
about the amount of porn on my Twitter feed. My God.
Just
Oh,
Anyways.
Anyway.
That's not true.
Well, now, I was like, Jacob, yes, it is.
mm.
Now we are gonna get into the not so fun topic, because we have to. Before we do this, is there anything else we want to address this week? Anything else that popped up?
I don't really think so.
I don't think so either.
One thing, the New World. New World. Oh, it's my babe? Hey, babe, we're filming. Hey.
Babe, come
This-
into frame.
This is my babe.
Babe, why don't you come into frame, please?
This
Let
Okay,
me see
I like
you
it.
in the frame. Ugh.
That's my baby in there too. My baby's
Oh,
right
babe,
there.
you've got my babe.
It's my baby. You
Babe.
can let her if you want. Hey. Oh, she's so hungry. So New World, which is the Amazon MMO.
Oh, I did hear
PC.
about this. I blocked it out of my memory because I don't like Amazon.
Well, so apparently it's actually pretty good. I listened to Asmongold talk about it at length, and he made a lot of really good points, and he brought up some good stuff. It really seems like the game has a lot of potential. There's a few things they've done that people think they should change or shift around, but all told, they were going to initially release last year. They got a bunch of feedback. They decided to postpone the launch until this August, and so they did so. And now they're getting ready to launch, and apparently it's really solid. Again, a couple issues here and there, but really solid, really good. So what we're actually I'm actually talking with the guys over at Amazon Studios, and we're working on getting basically like a it's not a server, but a guild, I think is the official term, set up for all the followers of Press Start and my YouTube channel so that we can all play together in the same world. in the same guild, have our city. We can go to war with other YouTubers and streamers, guilds. Should be fun. I think it'll be cool. But that's in current closed beta. So you'll see a ton of streamers playing it over the next month or two. It launches in August for people who are not interested in the beta. And honestly, right now I wouldn't blame you if you want to avoid playing the beta, because it is like the save files don't transfer, so whatever you do in the beta won't go to the new game. You'll have to do it over again. But nonetheless,
Well, and there was
that's
that rumor of it bricking some 3090s.
yeah, apparently it doesn't know when to stop rendering. So it just cranks up the voltage. So you have to cap your frame rate, and then apparently it's fine. But if you uncap the frame rate, like the 3090 will just keep going and going and going and going, and it doesn't know when to stop. And it I was watching Tim the Tapman stream it, and he has a 3090, and his entire PC shut down out of nowhere. Just blue screen of death, gone. And he rebooted and it was fine. So I think it nerfs them. I don't know if it bricks them. Hopefully not. That would really suck if your $1,500 graphics card got bricked. But
By Amazon. Thanks,
by
Jeff
Amazon.
Bezos.
I was going to
Jeffrey
say,
Bezos.
yes, since the second you mentioned Amazon, it's all that's been going through my head. And if you wind back, you'll probably notice that, like, kind of do this, like, as you're talking, like, CEO entrepreneur, born in 1964.
Oh god, he was born
Yeah.
in 1964.
Yeah, that's Jeffrey
He's
Bezos.
our dad's age, Jacob.
He's old,
He's our dad's age, and he's the richest man in the world.
and he's bald. So
He is.
And he has a lazy eye.
Oh, hey, look at that! I'm similar to Jeffrey Bezos.
Yeah, you're half Jeffrey.
Suck it, Jeff. At least I still have my hair.
I mean, yeah, I don't have $100 billion.
I don't have like a trillion. Isn't he at a trillion?
No, nowhere near a trillion.
Someone's almost at a trillion.
No one's near a trillion. There's arguments that like some of the Saudi Arabian princes, if you consider their whole family wealth, that they're close to being trillionaires, but no singular individual has anywhere close to $1 trillion.
Jeffrey
both kitties and
Bezos.
With that being said, let's bring it down. Bummer time. We have to talk about this because it's just whenever something this serious is brought up in the industry, to not mention it, not discuss it, is just not fair to anybody. So I want to address it, especially because there's a general attitude that these types of topics and things are exaggerated. They're not actually as serious as like media is making it out to be. If Polygon makes an article about something like this, they're clearly exaggerating. It's nowhere near that bad. So as a group of people that tend to, really keep a level head, and we pride ourselves on that. Finley, you're kind of in the way. We're going to go through this. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be great. We should just warn everybody that we're going to go through some of the very specific examples of what these accusations and allegations are. And so if you are sensitive to any topic surrounding, sexual assault, harassment, discussions of, I mean, really, if you could think of it, it's probably here, to be honest. Is there anything else I should warn people of?
Suicide.
Mhm. Like I said, if you can, like, if a horrible workplace, yeah, if a horrible workplace could have it, you expect to hear about it here. So, and that's not an exaggeration.
Definitely. No, the big ones are definitely suicide, sexual assault, sexism. They're
All
the
of it.
big ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of it. But
They
yeah,
really did check all the
But
boxes.
they
yeah,
did.
they did. So we'll go through this. Hey, I'm gonna break my blinds on my window trying to push and squeeze through. So I'll
It's
just
because
lift the
someone
blind.
needed to let their cat in.
Yeah. Um. So to just keep it very broad, then we'll get into specifics. Basically, what happened was the Californian Department of Fair Employment and Housing came out with a lawsuit that they publicly filed, because you have to publicly file these. Um, and it contains detailed descriptions of allegations and accusations against Activision Blizzard in various offices that they have. And they decided to file this after a 2-year investigation starting back in 2018. They concluded this investigation presumably in 2020. They worked with Activision Blizzard to try and remedy these issues and come to a solution to fix everything without a lawsuit, without dragging this into the public eye. Activision failed to resolve these issues in a satisfactory way, which is kind of amazing to me, because you would think it would be pretty straightforward to do, like especially when we get into some of these accusations and things that are discussed in this lawsuit. You'd think it'd be pretty straightforward, like, oh, fire these people and get new people in that don't do this. But apparently they failed to even do that. So um they filed this lawsuit. It's unclear what exactly the all of the implications of the lawsuit are. For one, it's horrific PR. That probably is more worrisome to Activision than the actual lawsuit itself. And two, it's going to start a snowball effect where all of these former employees are going to step forward and be like, yeah, no, this happened to me. This is real. This is why I left 3 years ago, which has already started to happen. There's tons of people out there that have come forward and said, yeah, I know I tweeted out that like I was excited about new opportunities. Wasn't new opportunities strictly. It was because, bullet point 3A happened to me, and it wasn't fixed. So it's insane. It's insane. These accusations go back. Apparently, some of them date back all the way to 10 years ago. Others are much more recent. They're not strictly dated, but some of the accusations that are bullet pointed in the lawsuit, it says that multiple women have come forward and said that they experienced this. So just because there's 50 some odd points doesn't mean only 50 people were affected. In some cases, there could have been 50 individual women experiencing one of these items. And it's not necessarily just women, because apparently some men also experienced harassment based on their sexual orientation or any other number of things. So this is I don't even really know where to start.
I
Um
have I have one piece that really caught me. I want to see if I can find. I don't know if we have it in the document, but you guys read the part in their response where Blizzard and Activision were talking about moving businesses out of California because of investigations like this.
no.
I want to see if
I
I can pull that up
yeah. Well, you
because I
pull it up.
definitely read that this morning.
You pull it up, and I'll just say like I read the whole document. I don't know if I'm guessing Luke did.
Hmm.
I don't know if you all did. I got so angry. I had to stop reading it maybe 3 or 4 times and just like take a break because it would just like upset me so much.
Right when you think you've reached the worst of it,
Yeah,
it
then
gets
there's more.
worse.
Mm.
Hmm.
So I'll say like if it weren't for this video, I wouldn't have read into it as much as I did because I think I would have been like, I need to protect myself now. Um, and it's meant that like after I wrote this like document, which was like 2 days ago, I haven't looked into it anymore. So if there's anything that's happened in the last 2 days, I don't know about it, which is probably why I haven't heard what Jacob's bringing up either.
Yeah, I read it this morning. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I did read it on my phone.
Sure,
Uh,
go ahead.
I
Start working through that. well, I can start working through the individual bullet points because, like I
Well,
said,
before
we
you,
want to.
yeah, there's a lot. Before you do that, I just want to ask you a question, like,
Mm.
because I'm obviously female and British. The suit calls out a lot that it's frat boy culture. Obviously, we don't have fraternities over here. If we did, I wouldn't be aware of what they're like. Is that? I find it hard to believe that every frat house is really like that.
Definitely not
So
everyone.
yeah,
My friend JJ's in a frat where all they do is play Pokemon. Like they have tournaments. But
yeah,
it's that sport culture kind
all
of.
yeah, all a frat is by definition is just like a group of people that like treat themselves like brothers and sisters, usually while in college. And there's traditions, there's things they do. In American culture, the term like frat boy, frat
Mm.
bro tends to be associated like do you watch South Park? Did you see PC Principal?
No, I didn't. But carry
That's
on.
okay. That's just like an easy example to point to. But it's basically like all these jocks and bros, they get together, they drink like crazy, they tend to go to parties, and the one goal in life isn't to graduate with good grades and get a degree and get a good job. It is to go to parties, drink, and get laid. Like that is the whole reason you're in college, right?
Okay.
Again, not every frat is like that at all. Not every most sororities are certainly not like that. Some sororities are like that. They also have that attitude. But in this case, when they bring up frat culture or frat boy culture, they're referring to that stereotype of, you're trying to get the girl as wasted as you can and then you're getting drunk and then you go home and you go crazy. That's the attitude that they're putting forward. And I've worked in places I don't want to um necessarily be too specific, but I've worked in places where there were certain people there who had that frat boy attitude, were in those types of frats in college just a few years before. And that attitude doesn't tend to leave people when they get out of college. At least as far as I've seen. Some people I'm sure grow out of it, but the people that I was working beside still had that general attitude of, it was very sexualizing. It was always like no matter where you went or what you were doing, they were on the prowl trying to find someone that they could get with. Um, so that's kind of what it refers to. Not every frat's like that, but
Okay.
many certainly are. And that's why a lot of kids, unfortunately, join frats because they like that has in some cases been romanticized in American culture and film and TV that like yeah you're a frat boy like yeah that's what college is all about, especially like a lot of football players, a lot of athletes join those types of fraternities, and that's when you get the NFL. Anyway, um so that Cameron brings up a good point. The suit basically says that that's the culture that Activision Blizzard has created, that it's a frat full of dudes just hanging out, being dicks, and anybody who isn't part of it is subject to it. So either you're the victim or you're the predator. Like there's no middle ground. It's not a workplace where you're just going to work. It is very clear the delineation between those who are chasing their prey down, basically. And when we go through this, you'll understand why the predator prey thing is at least I think accurate, because there's some ridiculous uh, things where people were going to crazy extents to do some ridiculously awful things. So
I found the shit. I found the horrible, horrible thing they said. I'm sorry to cut you
Go on.
off, but I reread it and I was like, oh, they were talking about it's just in their base response right at the end of one of their little paragraphs there. They says, It is this type of irresponsible behavior from unaccountable state bureaucrats that are driving many of the state's best businesses out of California. They're not so much concerned with the actual stuff going on in their company as they are concerned with having to deal with it and the headache of, oh, having people coming in and investigating their company for sexual assault and harassment, which they were the way they talk about it in this full thing. Because I remember seeing that. Imagine you're in that position and you have so little empathy that the only thing you're focused on is, oh, it's because we're in this state. If we were in Seattle, this wouldn't be happening. California is the reason that we're getting all this coming down on us. To be that stupid about something is kind of shocking to have that in your response.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're taking it's like taking a jab at the worst, like, and it doesn't make any sense why they would take a jab at something when something this serious is going on.
Well, it's just I think they're relying on people not, for one, reading the actual lawsuit and the actual allegations and the specifics of it, which honestly, in terms of like their lawyer's strategy, probably not a bad strategy, because not many people are going to read the document. Not many people are even going to watch this video or understand what the specifics of all of this are, and why some people are so upset. And so for them to be like, yeah, California is overreaching, like that's something California does a lot. California does overreach a lot. Does that mean every case where they file a lawsuit for workplace discrimination and horrible crap, does that mean every case is overreaching? No. Those are two very different things. They have overreached. Doesn't mean every single thing they do is overreaching. So, but you know, when they're trying to play off of people's just tendency to dismiss things that they're uncomfortable with, that's, you know, what they're trying to do. And it unfortunately is probably going to work, because I think a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, no, California's being crazy, whatever, you know, and just move on. Keep playing Warzone, keep playing all the games that they're used to playing, and ignore it, basically. Go to your happy place, right? So, like I said, I think it's important we go through some specific accusations so that you understand why this is a big deal and why this is serious. So I guess we can just probably the best way is just to alternate. Each of us can read one. We'll just go through the highlighted bullet points we have. And we'll just go through it. So I'll start, and then we can, at least from my camera perspective, we can just go me, Cammy, Jacob, and then we'll just go through the list. So the first one, women were regularly given lower pay and lower opportunity levels, and there's many examples in the suit that break them out into very specific examples. For instance, one woman I saw was in the marketing department. She was regularly getting higher engagement with her campaigns that she could prove numerically, and this was verified by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. So it wasn't like she was just saying that she got higher engagement. They verified she was. Her campaigns were more numerous. She had way more campaigns that were better performing than her male counterpart of a similar experience level and employment time. And she was passed up for promotion multiple times and was not given any raises commensurate with her job performance that was demonstrable. And seemingly the only differential factor between the two candidates was their gender, which is why it was brought up in the suit.
Women were also subjected to cube crawls, where men would drink copious amounts of alcohol and then go through the office cubicles, engaging in inappropriate behavior with their female employees.
That one really boggles my mind.
I will say I did actually like there was another, it wasn't in the gaming space. It was a real estate company. But the term cube crawl I've actually heard before. and it's something that happens. One of my friends in like early college, like freshman year of college, we went to high school together. Graduated a year before me, but he worked at a telephone, like telemarketing company, just cubicles for as far as you could see. And the term cube crawl was something that was thrown around regularly. Guys would take breaks and go on a cube crawl to see if any new employees had been hired that they could, try to get with. So that this is something that unfortunately, is not too uncommon in a lot of American businesses.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next one then. This is definitely one of the worst ones. I think we can say for sure, especially when plugging it into Blizzard's response to it and how they handled it. A female employee committed suicide during a business trip with a male supervisor who had brought butt plugs and lubricant with him on the trip. Another employee confirmed that the deceased female employee may have been suffering other sexual harassment at work prior to her death. Specifically, at a holiday party before her death, male coworkers were alleged to be passing around a picture of the deceased woman's genitalia, which Blizzard's response to it, they wanted to immediately distance this incident from the lawsuit. It was one of the first things they tried to do in that big document, was saying that it was disgusting that California would even suggest that this thing, that because it happened a little while ago, they're basically saying it's not fair game anymore, and they were trying to play it off as investigating this was harmful to the woman's family that was grieving for the loss, which is absolutely ridiculous. If you're investigating something like that to find out what happened and what the cause of it to try to make things better, it's incredibly stupid. There's just like all borderline evil to say you don't want people to look in on that because you think that it's like, oh, we're thinking about the family, when in reality they're thinking about their business. It's just disgusting, that one for sure.
Right. No, there's not much more to be said about it. I mean, I think just as clear, like there were some people on Twitter saying that murder charges should be brought against people, and like clearly that for one, there's no way you could ever prove something like that in court. Even something like manslaughter, especially at this point, there's somebody I saw said that this particular incident happened close to a decade ago. But the point of all of this is every element of this that's being brought up should never happen in a workplace. Your boss should not be bringing sexual devices onto business trips and then trying to convince his employee to use them with him. You should never be passing around nude photos of your coworkers. Period. Like that's just, I'm amazed this has to be brought up. And the point is that this type of thing doesn't happen at a workplace unless the culture harbors it, not necessarily, I mean, encourages it, is something that happens when you harbor it, when you don't stamp it out. So this type of thing is just, it cannot be tolerated. And for it to exist, it has to currently be tolerated. So it's just, this is the prime example of where this can go and why this matters. Because what starts as just like frat bros being silly and being like, oh, look at this picture I found of my coworker online, or that, we went out on a date and I snapped it, whatever it was. Like when you have that general attitude, hey, buddy, don't step on the keyboard. When you have that attitude, this is where it can end up. And this is why you have to take this type of thing seriously. It's not a joke. It's not something that you can just dismiss offhand and be like, yeah, it'll sort itself out. People need to toughen up, because this is where it leads. And the fact that they took such a strong move to try and distance themselves from this particular accusation and this particular line of evidence I think shows that they are also aware that this paints a very clear picture of what this harmful and terrible workplace environment, where this ends up, and why this needs to be dealt with swiftly. And for a prosecution, um, or for lawyers making their case in a civil lawsuit in a civil court, this particular story will make it as clear as crystal to a jury why, or to a judge, why this is a big deal and why this matters. So this particular instance is far and away the most important one named in the suit, and it's going to have, I think, a very important role in how all of this plays out. The next one, discrimination against pregnant employees was regular. Quote, a manager commented that they could not risk promoting her, the pregnant employee, um, as she might get pregnant and like being a mom too much, end quote, implying that if you were to promote a woman, she got pregnant, uh, it wasn't worth the risk, because it could potentially, she could want to be a stay-at-home mom or take maternity leave, and then he just wasted, quote unquote, the promotion on her. So he might as well just promote a male instead, because he's not going to get pregnant, not going to leave the job, and so that's a safer bet. And that is also something that I've heard brought up before at companies, and this type of thing is something that pregnant employees and mothers have to deal with a lot. My wife Nikki, who we saw earlier in the podcast, she's pregnant, and it's something that even is whispered in healthy workplaces, where it's like, well, she's pregnant, so she can't lift heavy things, she needs to take regular breaks. Like, it's not convenient for the pregnant mother, it's not convenient for the employer, so the employer's looking for ways that they can swap out roles and get a more efficient you know setup, I suppose. It's just sucky. Like, the whole thing is just so stupid. But this is the attitude when you're trying to prioritize efficiency above and beyond your employees. This is where it leads to, where you're not promoting people because they might in the future get pregnant, and once they get pregnant, they might want to be a mother, instead of working at your this job where you're dealing with this dickhole. So anyway.
Kind of leading on from that as well, women were criticized for picking up their children from daycare while the men were playing video games. And this is brought up in the suit a lot, that the male employees would turn up hungover or just turn up and not really care, and they would then sit down and play video games, play Call of Duty, whatever, and delegate their work to the female employees who are getting paid less than them and are given less opportunities than them. And they still have the nerve to criticize the women going to pick up their children while they're playing video games.
Doing research, I'm sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
We've seen them
I'm trying
around.
really hard not to get angry.
It does
Yeah.
happen sometimes in those games. You go into a lobby and you see like a developer. I've had that in Apex a lot. You see a dev account and you're like, huh, wonder what they're doing. And I tend to see that a bit more in I guess more towards EA stuff, but it makes sense that it would happen in Activision stuff too.
Yeah, or there's cases named in the suit where they're not even playing their own games. They're playing like some other current release that came out at the time, and they're researching what went well with this other game, and while they're playing that, all huddled around one cubicle, taking turns playing through the newest Naughty Dog game or whatever, they're accusing or they're bashing on their female coworkers for daring to go pick up their kids from daycare. So, yeah, it's
almost like you should have a person dedicated to that position as your researcher. That's an actual position, isn't it? outside. I read it in that book, Console Wars, when Sega was taking on Nintendo. They had a guy that just played all the video games that came out and would explain and like figure out all that research. I get maybe you have to go a bit bigger scale because it's not the '90s anymore. But what a fucking that's just that to me is just a lazy work culture on top of that, lazy and toxic at the same time.
Well, it furthers the idea, like, we're always baffled that some of these gigantic companies can't seem to manage to do the most simple tasks. Like Epic, for instance, Epic Games, from everything I've read, has a pretty healthy workplace culture. They, like, you can say that, Sweeney is a dork and, is greedy, trying to take on Apple, blah blah blah. But at the very least, he does seem to harbor a decent work culture. And they are very efficient. Fortnite, they're able to put out tons of updates, tons of new content regularly. There were talks of crunch and things like that, which are unfortunate and should be remedied, but nothing close to what we're seeing with Activision, right? Um, but Activision, like, regularly seems to have trouble getting the simplest of things put out and developed. And when you hear these stories of what the workplace actually looks like, it kind of makes sense. It's like, oh, the guys are spending the majority of their day playing other companies' video games for research. Like other studios, one thing I read about I think it was Sony Santa Monica. They have like book clubs, but it's game club. So like they assign a video game, they all play it, and then they have like an hour meeting where they all sit around the table and discuss it and say what they liked, what they didn't like. Like, and that's your research, but you play the game on your own time, and that's it. But in this case, it just seems like the male employees, in large part, were allowed to do pretty much whatever they wanted, and the female employees, pregnant employees, people of color, everybody were held to a different standard.
Oh yeah, that's the next one too. A women of color being particularly vulnerable, micromanaged by male staff. Manager made her write a one-page summary of how she would spend her week off while no one else had to. What is that for real? I did not read this
Yeah.
one beforehand. I did not.
So a woman of color took a week off, holiday time, whatever, and her manager made her write a one-page summary of what she was going to be doing in her time off, and no one else had to do that.
That is some creepy shit. That is. I don't even know what to make
It's
of that.
No,
wrong on every level. Yeah.
God, I did not. I did not hear about that one.
Mhm.
You believe it or not, I do know of one certain person that I worked for that did similar things somewhat, maybe not to that scale, but it's that weird manipulative trying to make you. I don't even know what the purpose of that. That one seems like borderline like creepy and almost sexual, but at the same time, it's wanting to manipulate someone to
Oh,
be like, if you make a list of all the stuff you're doing, then I can nitpick it. And it's like, well, you really don't have time to help me on Saturday in the office because here it doesn't look like you're doing that much. Like that
I mean, in the
creepy
simplest
shit.
sense, it's just like a weird level of control where it's,
Mhm.
I need to know exactly what you're doing.
That grosses me out.
Yeah,
That
that
one
that
really
one is
does.
like, it's subtle because it doesn't seem at first glance like it's really bad. But when you really think about what is actually being asked, it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder the more you think about it.
Most of the ones so far have been blatantly awful and very easy to point out, but when they're confusingly awful, it adds a whole other level to it because it really makes you ask. Like it gets like a little bit more specific and a little bit more personal.
Hmm.
Well, that one's more psychological as well, isn't it? A lot of the others are
That one
physical
too,
abuse,
yeah.
and this one
Hmm.
is I deserve to know what you're doing in your private time away from work. No, you
Yeah, and it's
fucking
one
don't.
thing like my boss, um, who was my boss, one of my bosses until very recently, um, like I'd be like, hey, I need to take tomorrow off, so I'm gonna be out of the office tomorrow. And like it was very regular to get kind of interrogated on why, because they wanted to make sure you weren't just dicking around. And you could be like, it's none of your business. It's my personal time. I'm gonna take it off, and this is what I'm doing. but like it's your boss, so you want to be accommodating and be like, well, yeah, I got to do this, this, and this, and then they would ask like, okay, well, where is this place? And looking back on it now, I can see like this person didn't believe me when I was telling them what I was doing and why I was doing it. Um, but to me, like that's just kind of like your boss being a dick. It's pretty common. But in this case, like asking for it written down on a piece of paper so that presumably it could be held against the employee if the employer found that what they were doing was to the contrary. Like that just seems like you're trying to lay traps to screw over an employee, and you're not doing that for other employees. You're doing that just for, as far as the suit names, you're just doing that for employees who are women and women of color. Furthermore, it's just bizarre. Um, and then as we touched on, sexual harassment was widespread. I mean, cube crawls alone, I think that sums it up, that that was a regular occurrence. Um, and there's been, in the same vein, there's been allegations that Activision hires, or Activision Blizzard's hiring staff bases female hiring based on looks. So if a particular woman is not to the visual standard that they want to set forward, they can't be, they don't stand much of a chance of getting hired. And this is something actually in college, we did a whole section on this. It was I think it was in the class on like corporate law. Um, and we were discussing like HR related issues and lawsuits that are around that type of topic. And the issue of hiring women based on their looks actually came up because there was a lawsuit. I think it was the Tilted Kilt, which, do you have that, Cami, in the UK?
That
I don't
sounds
think so. I'll double
incredibly
check.
familiar.
The Tilted Kilt. It's kind of like Hooters, but they wear little Scottish like kilts and outfits and like really,
Oh,
yeah. Um,
that's always
so
also.
naturally,
No, you know what? You go on, go on. You're all good.
sure. So, like, there was a lawsuit surrounding the Tilted Kilt restaurant chain, and they hire women, like, pretty clearly and transparently based on their looks. They
It's the
have to
business
have,
model.
yeah. The whole business model is that you go to this restaurant, you have a waitress at your table who is busty, is falling out of her shirt, is wearing a tiny short skirt. That's just what they do. That's what that restaurant's for. And a woman went to apply, and she was um, plus size, let's say, and by a fairly significant margin. And she applied and was turned down. They just said all the positions have been filled, and she filed a suit alleging that they turned her down because she was plus size, because she didn't fit with their beauty standards, right? And the whole point in the class, and the reason this was brought up, and why all of her legal motions were dismissed immediately, is because in America, there actually isn't really any protections legally for somebody's visible appearance or physical appearance. And part of it is because, on the one hand, like, if there were, like, you'd have to go into court and be like, look at this ugly woman. She's clearly, like, she wasn't pretty enough to work here. And while everybody might see that, like, there's no way of legally describing what is beautiful and what is ugly. Like, and once you put that into law, like, that gets weird really quick, right? You have a bunch of people in Washington deciding what's beautiful and what's ugly in order to create a legal standard. So it just doesn't really work well. But it's kind of like a lot of other things in this vein. You know it when you see it. Clearly, the Tilted Kilt is not going to hire somebody who's morbidly obese. It doesn't work with their business model, so they're not going to do it. They're never going to admit they didn't hire her based on her appearance, but that's what's happening. But there's nothing that can be done in the legal system to deal with it. It's just, okay, well, you got us there. And in this case, everybody that has come forward discussing this type of thing where they're not hired based on their looks, um, or they were fired once they gained weight, and they seemed to be criticized more frequently when their physical appearance changed. This type of thing is difficult to deal with in any sort of legal discriminatory way, but it's something that can be named in this lawsuit. And when it's added to the rest of the laundry list of other things that are going on, it makes a lot more sense, and it adds to the perception of this frat boy culture where they want the cute girls working in the cubicles so they can do their cube crawls, and they can go and try to pick up the women. And when the women get pregnant, like, get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. We'll swap them out with somebody fresh out of college, and, we'll keep churning it like that. It describes a pretty clear, all of this describes a very clear workplace that is very unhealthy, very discriminatory, not a place most people would want to work. And since this lawsuit came out, there's been some strong reactions. Cammie, why don't you tell us about sort of the response we've seen as a result of all of this?
I mean, rightly so. Like the whole public on on the internet and whatnot have been pissed, to say the least. Um, as you were like saying, Luke, loads of people from the industry have said like, yeah, this is common. Yeah, this happens. Like I was watching Alana Pierce react to it, and she was like saying, yeah, it happens. Of course it happens. And like, of course. As if that's, normal, because apparently it is here. Um, yeah, just women from the industry saying this behavior is normal and coming out with stories of their own, be it from working at Activision Blizzard or different, you know, game developers. People are pissed. I don't know what more to add to it.
Yeah.
I'm pissed. Everyone's pissed.
Everyone probably should be pissed about this, unless you're
Well, yeah.
in charge of the fucking PR team, whatever you call it, for Blizzard. Because their response to it, like I already brought up with that, with them spinning everything, because that's all they're doing. They're just doing a spin job on some of it to kind of place the blame in other areas, mostly placing it on the people filing the suit to begin with in California, which is fucking goofy as hell that they would even do that. But it is the step you would take if you're in that PR position and you have no resort left, or you attack the people attacking you. That's
Well,
it.
but even the thing to remember is that this isn't. I don't think that response came from the PR team. I don't think it did. I think it came straight from the lawyers. They knew that this lawsuit was coming because, like we said, they'd been working with this department, this agency, government agency, for the last year or so, trying to remedy these things, trying to fix it so they could avoid a lawsuit and avoid this getting out in public. They failed to do that, and I'm sure when they failed, the government told them, "Listen, you're not meeting our satisfactory goals. If you don't step it up, we're gonna take this into court." They didn't do that. Tried to call the bluff, I guess, and now they're dealing with it. So I think they had this canned and prepared by their lawyers. And it's a common legal tactic. When the case against you is so strong, you have to target the accuser and
Yeah.
destroy their credibility in order to prove your point and try to get out of it. It goes back to O.J. Simpson, Stephen Avery, and the making a murderer case. You just have to try to destroy the credibility of the accuser if the evidence against you is so overwhelming.
And that's
And that's
that's when it's plain and obvious that, hey, maybe don't support these games quite as much for right now. Maybe turn that support just to the developers. Kind messages, support those lovely people, because it is a tough spot, because you're like, you want to support the developers, you want to support the people that are being affected by this and are in really bad spots because of all this, because they're the ones getting affected by it. But it's hard to do that, because it's like, you can do kind words and you can be like, we stand with you, but it's kind of hard to take more action than that, other than like, what do you do, a boycott of the games? And that's kind of that. It's a tough situation. I think like the best we can do is just get it out there and say our support.
Yeah, and I mean, I said this. I'm not really comfortable at this point playing like Warzone, playing Activision and Activision Blizzard games. Um, I'm just not. I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me. Um, I don't need those games, and at the very least, like something has to be done. I don't know if it will. I was hoping we would see some big name streamers step forward and be like, "Listen, this is upsetting as hell. I'm gonna start playing, New Age or New World instead.
Jump on some
I'm not
indie
gonna mess
games.
with yeah, I'm not gonna do this until they figure this out." But unfortunately, that just hasn't happened. And we'll see. I mean, like I said when we were talking about all this before we started filming, I'm sure they are trying to play it safe. They don't want to experience any like legal ramifications from doing something too soon. They are like, this is a lawsuit that's been filed. Everything is still alleged. We're going off of a lawsuit filing. It's possible things could change. But like I said in that tweet when all of this came out, usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And in this case, there is so much smoke. It's pretty hard to believe that this is just a grand conspiracy. California hates Activision Blizzard so much that they're concocting all of these things. That's kind of a stretch for me, at least. So I think the more likely case is that, hey, there's probably something to these, and we should figure out what it is. Hey, Finley, can you not sit on that? Hey, dude,
Well,
I was trying to.
either way with this situation, I haven't supported Activision and Blizzard in a couple of years. Multiple reasons to that. I think I'm not super into their library of games to begin with. They had that big controversy with China and whatnot back like a couple of years ago that I backed away from. So boycotting, it's easier for some people. But imagine if you're one of those people that's super into Call of Duty. You love that stuff, and you hear about this, and in solidarity, you got to give up that Call of Duty for a little bit. You are strong enough, Call of Duty players. Support
No,
the people affected. You got
well, and
it.
I even like, I've been a huge, I've been a fan of Warzone. I've played a lot of it,
I may have been
and
talking about you because you know what? You love Call of Duty. I think it's safe to say that you love Call of Duty. At least this new
I've
one.
enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it a lot, and we've played it on stream. We've played it with friends. We played it with viewers. It's been a good thing for us, and I do enjoy it, but I don't need it more than I think we need change in the industry. And I think at some point you just have to stand up and be like, listen, just because the industry is a certain way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Just because crunch happens doesn't mean it should always be that way. Just because people, are discriminated against based on, their family planning or based on their gender or what have you. And it's like, well, that's just the way it is. Well, we should change that. Like, the whole point of this is that we should fight for a better tomorrow, a better industry. That's how we improve all of this stuff. And until people just make their lives a little less like, oh no, I can't play Warzone. Okay, well at least I'm not being accosted at work. At least I'm not, it can be so much worse for so many other people. The very least you can do is slightly inconvenience yourself to try and make a point to these head honchos who won't give a crap unless it's going to affect the bottom line. And judging by their responses, of course we've mentioned repeatedly the press statement that they sent out right as this lawsuit was made public. They are clearly freaking out, and then President J. Allen Brack, who's one of the supervisors that was actually directly named in the lawsuit and said that he was very aware of everything that was going on and didn't do anything about it. He sent an email to employees, kind of not saying much of anything. He just said, quote, "I feel angry, sad, and a host of other emotions, but I also feel grateful to work alongside a set of leaders and thousands of employees who join me in their commitment to continuous improvement." Well, dude, when you had the government working with you one-on-one to try and fix this stuff to avoid a lawsuit, you couldn't get it done. Why do you think it's going to magically happen now? Like, there's no reason to think it will. And this is the same thing like with Ubisoft, with Activision. This stuff starts high up because it's a company culture issue. In order to see change, you have to clean house and make it clear this stuff is not tolerated. And metaphorical heads have to roll in order to see real change. And who knows if that'll actually happen. Hopefully it does. I think the industry deserves better. Of course, these employees deserve so much better. And I think it all starts with us and, just making the point to not support it. And when it's brought up, let people know why you're not supporting them. It's like, yeah, just read some of those things that were brought up in that lawsuit. Tell me you're still comfortable giving them money. Check that out.
And what a weird way of putting it. I feel angry, sad, and a host of other emotions. Like hungry? A host of other emotions. What, you can't come up with more than 2 emotions? And when you do, you come up with the 2 most mundane versions of them? You couldn't have grabbed a thesaurus? Do you know, is this just me? I find it super goofy that it's like the 2 most... It's something you would read in like a children's book because they don't know the big words yet. Like he hasn't figured out how to spell outraged. And there's no disappointment. There's nothing like that. It's just I'm mad and I'm sad.
What pissed me off is how much in the statement he said I was like, this isn't about you.
It's really not.
This is about the women and the employees who have been treated like dog shit for years. This isn't about how you feel at all right now. Yeah, like I
knew about it.
I get that, there'll be people in his ear going, you can't say this. This is a open investigation. Saying nothing would have been better than saying this.
He's angry
a
and
whole
sad
lot of
that he
nothing.
doesn't get to do it anymore. He doesn't get to ride the wave anymore. He's probably gonna be ousted.
Like, where am I gonna pick up all my chics?
Yeah, because we don't know if he's like the ringleader or anything, but we know he knew about it, and so he's probably he has to realize that it's like, all right, this is the end of the line. There's really no recovering from this.
Yeah.
Well, that's why, like, it's just, again, the leaders are the ones that can make the change, and if the change isn't happening, it's because of the leaders. This guy has no excuse. You knew about this, and it still happens. That's your fault. You should feel bad. You should be livid, and you should vow that you are going to clean house and fix this because your employees deserve so much better. But instead, you're like, I'm mad and I'm upset.
I know that's too high education.
Long.
That's too high.
I'm sad.
I am angry and sad.
Sad. Oh, he didn't even say and.
Oh yeah, well you can only,
I'm angry, sad.
Fuck you,
so angry.
It's that part from Wet Hot American Summer where they're like, when can you say it? Before bedtime? Literally any time. Where it's just like you give one example and that's like, that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No? Okay, cool. Oh, fuck. Well, I guess for right now, last words of support. We're with you, Blizzard employees. This has affected. Gamers out there. I hate using the word gamers. I think it's cringy as hell. People that play the games, support some indie devs, because God knows they need that support. And for the looks thing too, some of my favorite developers, musicians, that thing, all that. I don't know what the hell they look like. Some of my favorite game developers on top of that, I don't know what they look like. It's not important. So if you're looking at making stuff and this has discouraged you at all, keep making stuff because it don't matter. I could name, I could, I could name a few people that I really enjoy that I have not seen the face of, like Ding Dong VG, or there's various YouTubers who never show their face, like Defunct Land, that create tremendous content. So don't let that get you down. Make what you want to make. That's where I'll leave it.
Yeah. And if it's any consolation, you can make way more money as a successful indie developer than working at one of these places. If you've got the creative bug, keep creating. Like you'd be amazed what can happen. Like one really successful game. What's the name of the guy that did um
Stardew?
what's Undertale?
Toby
Undertale.
Fox. It's one of my
Toby
favorite
Fox.
games of all
Ridiculously
time.
wealthy now. Like, and then you can create your own company, your own studio, your own publisher, and take all of these employees out of these horrific conditions and give them a home that treats them well. So
That's what I felt when I was reading this, because, like, obviously I'm a woman.
Right.
I'm in, yeah,
Oh, really?
I'm in, like, the gaming industry, and it's like, I have not experienced this, and it makes me so fucking sad that I'm in the minority that I haven't experienced this. I should be normal. I should be the normal. I shouldn't be the minority here. So, if you're a woman and you're interested in video game stuff, don't be put off by this because then they win. If you don't enter the industry you want to enter because there are shitheads like this out there, then the shitheads win. Do what I do and find two people that are kind of alright and work with them instead and start your own business up and say, I'll do it and I'll do it better. Fuck you.
you know, I'll take it. Kind of all right. We did it.
Kind of alright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important to say, yes, this is a big company and there's terrible stuff that they're doing, and this is not the only company that does stuff like this. There's been issues at other companies too. But there's also a lot of places and companies in the industry that, by all accounts and measures, are great places to work. So don't, like Cammy is saying, don't let a few shitheads push you out and prevent you from giving the industry a shot. You know, and people who are working at Blizzard right now, you know, you might be working there right now and you're like, yeah, it's not great. Like, there's plenty of places that will take your talent and would love to have you and won't treat you this way. So don't sell yourself out. A lot of the saddest thing with this stuff is the ability of some of these people. I was gonna say something else. Some of these people is that they can convince you that you don't deserve better. It's the sort of gaslighting, and it's the worst part of this type of abuse is they convince you that you're the problem, not them, and that the fact that you have an issue with it just means that you're weak and that you don't have what it takes. Don't take that. They're lying. They're just trying to again gaslight you to the point where you just suck it up and they can continue to do what they do. Don't take it. You deserve better. It's okay to realize you deserve better and to look for better. So
Indeed.
that's what I got. But thank you guys for coming out. Thanks to all of you for watching. Hopefully this wasn't too horrific, but it also is horrific, so maybe it should be horrific. But at the very least, hopefully you were able to get through all of this, and now you're going to be informed enough to be able to stand up and shut people down when they say stuff like that. This isn't a big deal, because it is. But any closing thoughts?
I think we
wrapped up pretty nice.
we did. What do you, let us know in the comments what you guys think of this format, because if you are watching this day of, so the 20, what would that be then? The 26th. If you're watching on the 26th, well, when this comes out, keep in mind there will be highlights coming out throughout the week. So if you're only tuning in every once in a bit, you kind of skip through. Oh, maybe we'll add some what are they called? Not watermarks. Shoot, what are they called? Where you have to click on the part in the description. Timestamps. Good God.
Yes.
We'll add some timestamps to this stuff to break it up a little easier for the big part, but it will be broken down into little highlight videos throughout the week. Let us know what you think of that. It'll help us get out a little bit more each week.
Next week it won't be as depressing.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully. Jesus Christ.
Fingers crossed we'll have nothing but good news.
Yeah.
That does it. Thanks for watching Press Start, everybody.